So welcome back, video 3 of our casting demo. So we'll be pouring 2 molds today, but we'll kind of talk about the one that we're focusing on, our final one. You'll notice that our box here has index marks. So after I assembled it and before I took it apart, I made marks that I knew, because we did not draw our circle, our hole locations accurately. We just kind of randomly picked those at the drill press. This side will only go on in one orientation. So make sure you make some little tick mark locations so you can always put the box back together, because since you'll be doing multiples, you'll be taking the box apart, putting it back and forth. So the next step is once we've got everything clayed up, we can see where our model is in here, got everything cleaned, wiped down. We've come in real lightly with Vaseline, and Vaseline the entire inside surface as best we could. Have wiped around the rim as well. Everything was clayed prior to that. We took the Q-tips, came in, made sure we had Vaseline prepped well on our model. And then the last thing to do, once you have a real thin, and by thin I mean you're not leaving any texture or anything on the model or on the sides with the Vaseline. The Vaseline is just a real thin coat. You're almost just rubbing it into your fingers and then using that just to create a first layer of protection here. Second will be a mold release, and that is here. You would go to your spray room and do a light coat of your mold release. Remember, the lid needs the Vaseline and mold release on it as well. And as you're working with your models, also your top's there, just keep putting your top back on so that dust and debris cannot fall into your model. So from there, we need to take dimensions and actually calculate your volume. So we know that we're 2 inches and 3 1/4, and then we have a depth, and so we can multiply that out. And I got roughly 7.3 cubic inches. Then you try to calculate, about how much your model is taking up of that space and subtract that out. So for just simplicity, I took our 7.3, I removed it to 7. We're probably closer to a full cubic inch in our model there. And then take that to a calculator and change it to ounces. So I came up with 3.88 ounces. And so that would be total volume going in. So you would do, we rounded that back up to 4 ounces total. So we would do 2 ounces of part A and 2 ounces of part B to make our 4 ounces. For this video, I have 2 that I'm trying to fill, so bear with me. We have 4 ounces that we're splitting between the 2. So we have a 4-ounce cup and a 4-ounce cup, but just remember to always calculate. Real quickly, I've already kind of prepped my 2 materials, but I wanted to show, once you've opened your material, we're using Moldstar 20T, which is a platinum cure material. Platinum cure has a warning on it saying that it will not set up against sulfur. So anything that has sulfur in it, so beware of that. A lot of your masking tapes and things like that will have sulfur in them, and your material will not set up. I wanted to just show a quick kind of review of how you would, once you have this large gallon, pouring into a small cup would be difficult. We said we wanted 4 ounces in each cup. I added water to a cup, found out what 4 ounces was, made tick marks on our casting cups. So we take a clean paddle, come into part A with that paddle, and we kind of swirl it around, and then we can bring that material to our cup. And then once we fill it to our line, we swirl, we can cut it off, and all that material needs to come back into our bin. So just carefully run it back into the gallon jug here. So casting, I've talked about it all along the way, that we need to make sure that we keep things clean. Okay, and so at that point we could take towels, clean the rim, put the top back on, and move on. Our cups right now are too small to blend part A and part B, so I have a larger cup here. If you were pouring larger volumes into cup A and a cup B, you would have your same tick mark of how much of this one and how much of that one. But when you go to mix them, you're going to pour A into B, obviously, and then you'll cut it out. Don't worry about the contents of that one. Stir this one up, and then take the contents of B and pour them back into the A cup so that you're using all of that material to get a better mix. The good thing about the Smooth-On products that are 1-to-1 ratio like this is that it's harder for you to goof up that. There's some out there that are a 10-to-1 kind of ratio and you have to do them by weight. It's very critical that you mix them properly. So we'll get our cup and we will pour off A and B. And we'll have to scrape these. So I'll go ahead and cut one out. Come in with the paddle. Important when you are filling these cups, you have a clean paint stick that you're pulling out part A. And when you're done with that, you do not obviously put it into part B because you will ruin that entire gallon of material. And then scrape this one out. And like I said, the 1-to-1 Smooth-On, they've done a good job of having some room of error there. And so we'll just scrape all that in and remove that. And then now we just cleanly come in and store. You want to make sure you're not whipping it, but you're folding it in. Okay. Make sure you get what's on the stick off and that you're reincorporating that back in because you may only have part A on the stick and it stays there. Make sure you're kind of scraping along the bottom of the cup. Okay. And I think at this point we're pretty well mixed. Some materials are 2 colors, which helps you see it blend a lot easier than this clear. But lastly, we'll just kind of cut that. We'll need the stick in case we are filling and we need to stop. We can cut the pour. We'll start real quickly on. So vacuum chambers. This would go into a vacuum chamber. I've noticed that it's not really affecting the parts that we're doing in the class, but you would put that in a vacuum chamber. You want to make sure you have well under half of the volume when you do that because it will double in size quite quickly. But our technique for doing this and trying to minimize those bubbles will be to come in and just pour a real thin ribbon. One thing that's critical is pouring it off of your model. So I'm right on the side. And we'll come in and pour, and we will just let it slowly water fill. So I've been using that term a lot. I was called out on that in reviewing these. When I say water fill, we're just talking about the fact that liquids will come to a water line level. So we're just slowly letting it come all the way up. And this is the part of the process that you hope you got everything just right. So now that we have kind of gotten away from the model, we'll go a little bit faster here. And we'll have to bring it all the way up to the top, and then we'll put our lid back on. So here, this last little bit, you want to make sure you are putting enough that it does at least flatten off for you. If you put too little, then your mold may open back up when you put it back to start filling it with model material. So we'll cut that. We have a slight little bump to it, so that's a good sign. And look at our registration marks. I'll put the lid on and let it just slowly walk that way. And down it goes. So we'll come to the other end and just pull this down tight. And we may get some squeeze out, which we are. And that's why we did Vaseline the lid and those sides as well. All right, so that's Cat making the first side of our mold. We'll see you on the flip side. Thank you.